All right, welcome to Talk Data to Me with myself, Craig Stewart. It's been a really, really long time since I've done one of these here at Dalebrook Media. We've been incredibly busy with Data Fest that we had last month. We launched a Culture Cafe event. We've had our marketing events and just generally being quite busy building things for our communities. As you can see, I'm debuting my Talk Data to Me robot hoodie that we're developing now, so watch out for those. We're going to be selling those as merch at DataFest coming up in November. All right, so joining me now as my first guest, I guess, after quite a while, is Jaco de Toit, who's the head of AI, ML, and data technology strategy and assurance at Vodacom. Jaco, that's quite a job title. I'm sure you'll be able to delve into quite a bit of it there. But yeah, Jaco spoke at our Data Fest, really great supporter of our events, always brings such great knowledge. And we're going to be really looking, I guess, at the future of data science in South Africa, but also just getting to know Jaco and his sort of philosophies around data and how he approaches his work and all those sorts of things. So Jaco, good to have you. How's life down in Cape Town?
Hi, Greg. Very, very good. Thanks. It's just a bit cold these days, but
yeah,
we're pushing through it. And how was your holiday? I think you recently went away.
Oh, yeah, this will be a bit of a shameless plug for a place called Sinsa East, which is just outside of East London, about 40 minutes. A beautiful little village, most amazing beach. Not many people know about it. We had a holiday house there growing up. Oh, just such a fantastic place. And stayed at a place, old family lodge. It's actually their 50th year, called Crawford's Beach Lodge. Direct access to the beach, 3 buffet meals a day, kids club. So yeah, anybody looking for a very, very relaxing holiday on an incredible beach, check them out. I'll put the link up in the LinkedIn promo for the event. But yeah, back to a bit of fairly cold Joburg. I'd rather be in cold Cape Town, I think, than cold Joburg.
Brilliant. The title I moved from the finance department about a year ago to the technology department in Vodacom, and with that, I had to also kind of find my feet with the work and things that I do there. But basically, in a nutshell, I currently focus on machine learning and AI strategy and assurance for the company. And making sure that these technologies that we work with deliver real business value at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And as you know, like currently this field and the world we live in is just full of promises. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to cut through the hype. But I have to make sure that the company's got the right processes and platforms and data ready. Shaping the solutions for business goals.
Yeah, we may cover it later, but you kind of there talk about cutting through the hype and, kind of getting some of the realism in place. I mean, this has been a conversation now for a good few years. I mean, AI has been around actually for a long time, but obviously becoming, very notable now. How sort of close do you think, you are as an organization or sort of as an industry in general to getting to that point where, kind of beyond that sort of hype cycle, and now there's this real value, real practical implementations in organizations?
Yeah, so luckily I'm fortunate to be with Vodacom, and I joined the company roundabout in 2018, where the whole big data journey kind of really got kicked off with lots of backing, big teams, and lots of investment, and the value that we added, especially I can talk about things that we've done in my team. I focused on the network and the technology part of the infrastructure, so to speak, not necessarily customer oriented problems, but more and commercial oriented problems, more on the technical engineering side. And I mean, we've really showed the organization that with machine learning and AI, we were able to save lots of money. So, and I think that goes to the leadership teams who really found a very good balance between setting expectations right, looking at where in the organization things are mature enough to implement in terms of data and quality. And obviously, like along the journey, you learn a lot. You make mistakes. You have to experiment. But we moved at a very fast pace, and we worked with domain experts as well. And the whole thing, the recipe of everything just worked. So we delivered on many of those promises, and I think over delivered in many aspects as well. So today we're still busy with implementing these technologies, trying and testing out new things, and it's all over the organization. So many times organizations have these center of excellence and units, and they keep the data science skill and whatnot like centralized. But you see it more and more often than not, where each of these departments in a big corporate company get their own, skill sets up to a very good level where they can experiment even more and then also deliver value. So it's an organic kind of evolution of not just the technology, but also the courses and the programs that are available online, which you can use to upskill yourself. Courses available at universities, master's degrees specifically tailored for AI and machine learning. And now, people are just hiring naturally, and there's more skill coming into the industry. So you see, like, organically, just things evolving. And yes, there's hype also associated with it, and I'm not sure if that's going to go away anytime soon, to be honest, but it's a balancing act at the end of the day, trying to keep things realistic, logical, and very much, I like to think of it in terms of from a scientific perspective, or a research perspective, where you don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to set up experiments to see if you can add value, and if you can, then do so. Then that's the win. But most times, I would say, it's a educated guess. Like you're going to do things, and sometimes it's going to work, and sometimes it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of this area.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if you've got the freedom to do that experimentation, then find the value, then I think it makes life so much easier. Let's talk a bit more about you, Jaco, and then sort of how you got into data science or data and all these sorts of things. I think that's such an interesting sort of journey for people to take. So yeah, maybe just tell us, kind of where did it all begin?
Yes. So I was I didn't fall into data science. I would say I just followed my curiosity at the end of the day. So at university, I wasn't one of the brightest and best students, to be honest. But I struggled in my engineering a couple of first years. But then after a while, when I started to see, how the theory can be applied in the real world and how you can create practical solutions and applications with all the mathematics and everything that taught us, I was hooked, and many many nights out with friends then turned into nights in the lab. So I spent many hours in lab, and then I was lucky to get a bursary at Naspers, where I did my master's degree in telecommunications protocols. I think I worked on WiMAX at that stage, but then I really got introduced to machine learning research, which many of my friends in the lab was busy doing. And I felt a bit, I'm doing telecommunications and it's not really machine learning or AI, so it's kind of boring. But then after a while, I realized that machine learning, the underpinnings of machine learning, so it's a little bit of a technical thing, but just bear with me. So the underlying principles of machine learning is actually deeply connected with telecommunications and information theory particularly. And all of this was actually made possible by a 1942 paper by Claude Shannon. So machine learning and AI is very much something that evolved from telecommunications, which is quite interesting information. So that made me really interested in the field. And then I started to just go to some of the professors and visited their classrooms a lot, like Professor Johan de Priya, who really taught me and gave me a very deep understanding of machine learning and in a very particular field of machining called Bayesian inference. And one of the moments I'll never forget was when he showed me, he's busy writing code and doing research, hectic research in the field. And he showed me that he was able to solve Sudoku, very difficult Sudoku problems, and very difficult image processing problems with modeling methodologies which did not need any training data at all. So that was kind of a moment where I thought, yo, this is very interesting. You don't need any training data. And as you know, training data is very expensive. So he was able to develop these methods that allowed him to solve these very difficult problems without any training data. And yeah, so then I just got fixated on different algorithms, like one at a time. And I really wanted to have a deep understanding of them. So I coded them. And back then, there weren't really all these open source packages as they are right now. So you really had to write the code yourself and try and experiment and see if you can understand the algorithms. And that was very interesting. But usually that is deployed on some toy small data set, which comes with the theory. And that did not satisfy me. So I wanted to implement this in the real world, practically on real data. And real data, of course, is messy and not clean. And that just, makes you aware of all the intricacies involved in data sets like that, and it brings unexpected challenges. So that's where you really, I think, learn a lot about implementing solutions that adds value at the end of the day for companies. So very much curiosity driven. And today I'm still curious about all these new algorithms and things, but I have to find a nice interplay between my intellectual exploration and delivering value for the organization. So very much a play between those two things, keeping yourself interested and also then delivering value with it. And so far it's going well.
Yeah. I can imagine. Cool. So I think you kind of, touched on a few things there that I think, not for a lot of people watching this sort of podcast because they understand a lot of it, right? But obviously you work a lot with, business units within organizations who maybe don't have deep understanding of things like inference and machine learning and all that sort of thing. How do you kind of make sure that the understanding is really aligned, that you understand what the business problem is that needs to be solved, and they understand the tools and techniques and the solutions that you're providing, to make sure that you can actually solve that you're not kind of talking, roughly the same thing, but you're on different tracks. Because I think, you kind of in the prep really talk about creating a shared understanding. And I always sort of talked about more the co-creation of models and things like that. So work with business, make sure that there is that shared understanding of what's going on. How do you sort of go about that, creating that shared understanding? People are not like, well, I'm sure Jaco's a very clever guy and it sounds good, but how do we put it in? Because I have no idea what this is and I'm worried about it. So how do you kind of break down those barriers?
Yeah, that is, I think, probably the thing that we speak about the most at the DataFest conferences as well, is when you get feedback from all around and all organizations. This is one of the things that's really important and often overlooked. And it's not necessarily that you've got technical blockers, but it's more, sometimes it's a language blocker. So what terminologies do we use? We have to define things up front and make sure that we're clear about things. And then obviously clarity will ultimately build trust, and trust will create momentum for the organization to move forward. So I think like I'm a strong proponent for having regular, let's say, presentations or show and tell things. So break it down. Like there will be people in the audience that is less technical orientated, and some will be technically orientated. And I think the technical things is something that you can always speak to people afterwards, but the business case and the business value should be documented and communicated properly. Else, the intent, it just isn't there for your project to make a difference. So the technical thing is second, I would say,
Yeah.
and the intent in the business problem, framing the business problem, and then providing a solution to it, and then showing that you've scientifically went through a rigorous process of developing a solution for the business problem, building trust then with the audience, being confident in what you show them, and you have to give them answers and break away any uncertainty that they've got, and then finally show them this is the value that this specific output is going to be able to unlock or bring for us. So you have to work with product owners, you have to work with business people, and you have to do that continuously, and also communicate continuously. I forgot about something I wanted to say now, but that is kind of the process, and you have to take them on the journey. That's one of the most.
Yeah.
You have to keep them involved.
Yeah. And have you found that sort of level of engagement and sort of willingness and to a degree curiosity has grown over the past sort of 6, 12, 18 months now, where people are not as scared about it, or they're worried about not asking the right question? Have you found that people now kind of want to know a little bit more about the technical side, the detail of it, or they still like, look, you're the guy that's got all the education around this, we trust you, you do it, just make sure that it works? Or they finding that business wants to get a bit more involved? I suppose in the technology area of Vodacom, people are kind of inclined to understand this a bit better, I suppose.
They definitely do. When I joined the organization, like 2018, 2019, around about, I was really surprised when business people came to me and said, Jaco, we want you to run a k-means algorithm on this data set. So they actually knew like the names of some of these algorithms. So they definitely, they'll keep you on your feet, like they'll keep you awake. And so that's a very good thing. And of course, it's not just like Vodacom. We also have a larger family group wide in Africa, and also Vodafone. So many pockets of information travels all around between these organizations, where people share, like, this has worked for us, that maybe you can try this. So that I think is a very positive and good thing. So they wouldn't necessarily go into much detail. I think the data scientist obviously knows a lot more about the data and the problem and the algorithms, but they definitely know what questions to ask you, which will keep you engaged and allow you to make good decisions on some of the things that you're going to try and test and experiment with. So I think that's to me, that's a very good environment to not only solve problems, but also keep yourself updated with the technologies and algorithms, and go and search for other algorithms. Or maybe they said you should try this algorithm, but you don't know how it works, and then you go and do some studying on it. So that whole environment is a good recipe for doing things like this. I have heard, in some other organizations, it's kind of similar, but then some organizations not so much. So it's still a valid thing to ask, but you have to. I think you have to choose wisely what you tell the audience, the people.
Try not to overcomplicate things
Yeah.
at times, I guess. All right, cool. I'm just checking the time there, Jaco. I really wanted to get into your thoughts around the future of data science in South Africa. I think, having been involved in the industry and community, not from a technical perspective, but from a conversation perspective for nearly a decade, I've seen such significant amount of change. But still there's some sort of perennial problems and challenges, I guess, as well. But you conducted a survey recently in advance of Data Fest. But so maybe you can just give us, what do you see as the future of data science in South Africa? What is the roadmap? How do we need to kind of really take it forward? Maybe give us your sort of thoughts around how positive it is versus, is it more negative trend, whatever it may be.
Yeah, so there was a nice experiment. I was fascinated, or still am fascinated, about how other people, or all of us in South Africa, how we see this technology, how we deal with it, how we implement it, how we use it, and what value we're able to unlock with it. Again, I'm curious about things like that, so I put the survey out, and the feedback I got was quite, I would say, quite reliable, because many of the questions correlated and there weren't many outliers in the data. But some of the insights, I think, that was quite interesting for me was many organizations are past that stage of exploration. So many people started to experiment with the technology and seeing what they could do, and it's like in isolated places in different pockets of a company. They moved past that. So many are now in this more of a mature phase going forward of productionizing models. And if I say models, I mean like real machine learning models. So a model that was trained on data and now executes something intelligently, and that's giving some output to do a certain task. So they are at that stage, and that brings you to issues like, how do you productionize and automate these machine learning models? And there's lots of issues and problems around that, which people are kind of dealing with. And with that, also data quality. So those things, after this decade or a little bit over a decade of doing this technology, I think that's the things that stays. It remains there. Like data quality does not seem to improve a lot if there's issues like that. Implementing machine learning models, productionizing it, automating it, that's still difficult to do, and I can understand why, because you can't just take a data scientist, let them create a model, and then let them proceed with other models, go on and create the next one, because they understand that's the person that understands that model the best, and they need to then monitor and keep an eye on that model for an extended period of time. And that takes a lot of attention and focus to do so, while you have to then do other things in parallel. But so just in a nutshell, that's the kind of issues. Again, the buzzword thing, that's also something that came up a lot. But I think there's still also a growing need for translation between technical teams and business leaders. That's something that also stood out. There was quite a difference between what technical hands-on people answered for some of the survey questions versus what executives or management people answered. For example, around are we reskilling people correctly and effectively in the organization? Can you rate that between 1 and 5? There was a disparity there. And also about data quality, where technical people that deal with the data is quite skewed towards the data quality being not so great, and then the executives saying the data quality is fine.
Yeah.
So there's things like that. So I think it's just we just need to communicate. And again, in this disruptive field filled with hype and let's say fake information, whatever, clarity needs to be the number one priority for everybody. Let's be clear about what we want to achieve, and let's stick with that. The grass is not necessarily green on the other side. Like let's keep a focus on the core things of the organization that we want to solve and prioritize that, and then pick the technology that is fit for that purpose, and then work with that, and don't overcomplicate things. That's another thing. So there's some of the things that I saw in the survey, and also one of the interesting things was if you have a CDO in your company or a chief AI officer or data officer, they do seem to make a difference in many of the issues that companies have with regards to this technology. So that was an interesting thing as well. And there's lots of other things as well, but I'm planning to maybe just write a short summarized thing with some graphs and things, and I'll share that soon. But in South Africa specifically, I would say, yes, okay, fine. We've got all these problems, whether it's data related or South Africa related or Africa related. But with these problems, it means that we will get our own data science heroes as well. So I think there's lots of skill from all the universities. I recently also attended the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences graduation ceremony. That was absolutely amazing to see how much talent also comes out of that institution. And now it's just a matter of, how do we get individuals focused on industry problems to then really gain that edge of implementing it effectively. So I'm positive about it, positive about South Africa. Future looks good. And I cannot predict what's going to happen. It's too difficult these days.
Even with all your models and everything,
it's too difficult. The new ChatGPT and all that stuff coming out. But I'm leaning towards the side of taking things with a pinch of salt. But just try to be clear, and then hopefully clarity will again create the momentum, trust, all this stuff.
Before we close up, I think it's great that there's that sort of positive sentiment towards, and especially you're talking about that we do have a good sort of skills base in South Africa, because for so long people are, there's a lack of skills, we don't have this sort of skills, etc. And I think it can to a degree be true, but I always kind of meter it out with the fact that not everybody's brain is built to be a data scientist, an ML engineer, an AI engineer. There's lots of very smart people, students, etc. out there, but they just don't have the aptitude for that sort of thing. Their brain works in a very different way. So you're saying that you think there's actually quite a good sort of skills base, for this sort of profession, etc., to grow in South Africa, and that these skills are going to be able to get into business, because they must be, I know they are, very, very sought after, skilled people.
If, for example, if I think about, I was also part of obviously the hiring team for data scientists. I had my own team a year ago, also had my own data science team. And if you look at the CVs of 2018, 2019 to now, these individuals come with master's degrees in data science, structured data science, master's programs, graduates with a very, very specific skill set of knowing all the basic algorithms at least, so that they're ready to apply these things, and they at least know when good situations are fit for these algorithms to apply them. But still, the real data, the real world dirty data that you have to deal with brings with it different challenges. So you have to get them into exploring and applying the techniques to those kind of problems. But that you gain that in the industry, and then also being able to communicate your results and
Yeah.
bring it back to a business problem and solve a business problem. But that's things that you learn in the industry, and so I think that, yeah, what I'm seeing is there's more skill, there's more people, the CVs looks better. Um, these institutions, they deliver on you know, lots of students every year coming out of AIMS. I know it's about 100 or 200 students every year from AIMS, and then the universities also produce a lot of students that's you know, fit for this kind of field. So I'm positive about that, and there's lots of data for everybody. So and with it, there's lots of questions.
Yeah.
We just need curious minds at the end of the day. So that's something I would. Well, I'm always interested in finding people that, you know, go above and beyond delivering something that, you know, they come back to say, I also checked this because I was interested in finding an answer for A and for B.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that you need. You shouldn't be satisfied. You should still, you know, keep digging and answering questions. And if you're curious about it and you lay awake at night about it, and go the next day and see if you can write a SQL query and find the answer for it.
Yeah. Good stuff. All right. So good to hear from Jaco. I think the key thing there is a lot of skills, but we need to find lots more curious people who want to solve interesting problems. Jaco, thanks so much for joining me and for the insights. Next time, we're going to get you to play a song on the guitar.
Yes.
A closing outro for us. But yeah, thanks, man. Always good to have you on. And yeah, we'll chat to you soon.
Good to see you again, Craig. Thanks for the
invite. All right. Thanks, Jaco. Cheers.
Bye.
All right, cool.